A beautiful, deep and original story that tackles philosophical questions such as what is the world around us? Who are we and what defines us? Do men sweat semen? Last year, during February, I decided to give this game a try. Its name was Doki Doki Literature Club, and all I knew was that it was supposed to be a suddenly it turns scary kind of experience. You know, those ones that work with YouTubers but are usually pretty boring for the average player. Well, I ended up loving it, but for the suddenly realistic portrayal of real-life issues, everything else felt more like a nice added bonus. So, of course I'd go look for games that were similar to it. And besides Kimi to Kanojo to Kanojo no Koi, or Totono for short, which is a still untranslated visual novel, I saw this name popping up again and again. Subarashiki Hibi, or Wonderful Everyday. It's a pure-breed visual novel, and a really damn long one too, so you should probably come to terms that it's not an intense action-packed game. It's much closer to reading a book with lots of pictures. And yeah, there's going to be lots of reading to do here. What's this even about though? I've been seeing these images scrolling on the screen and... Is it another high school setting? Sky, what are you doing? Don't we have enough of those? First of all, how dare you? Just because there's a lot doesn't mean they can't be good. And second, trust me, there is a lot more than that. On Steam, you may know that there are many games with the sexual content tag when it comes to visual novels. There's many others that have the psychological horror tag, although sometimes it's there just as a joke. But what happens when those two tags are there together as the main ones? Yeah, this game's very fucked up. And I'm not exaggerating, it has a lot. So much that... PSA! If you're planning to buy this game on Steam, you need to go to justusa.com and download the 18 plus patch, because otherwise the Steam version cuts off like the whole game. And I know, there are games out there that require patches only to add some nudity here and there or a couple sex scenes. In this case though, Wonderful Everyday needs a patch for every kind of mature content. I want to quote a Reddit post here on what to expect from this visual novel. Lots of disturbing material. This is not for the faint of heart. If you think the chomp scene in a certain visual novel was disturbing, well, it's gotta be a lot worse here. I recommend some eye bleach like that moe anime you've been putting off watching. And he's right. The game isn't really as graphical as many others though. There isn't as much gore, blood and organ splattering as I expected after reading this kind of introduction. It's worse though. As the tag says, it's not graphical horror, it's psychological horror, which is completely different. You can't just skip an image you find disturbing, the entire situations, soundtrack, events, characters, they are what's scary here. Also, be prepared for bullying, suicide, graphic rape scenes that aren't there to please you like any eroge out there. They're there, and they're very disturbing. In short, if you can't handle disturbing content, you'll need lots of breaks to finish this story. Unless you play the unpatched version, but why even do it at that point? I've been talking about disturbing content for so long now, is there anything else to this? Ooh boy, yes. There is a lot more. Wonderful Everyday has wonderful comedic breaks. Some are cliched, others are not, but they're all good anyway. There's a few characters that managed to get me rolling a few times. Hell, there is a quite intense and detailed conversation regarding whether men sweat cum or not, which was as dumb as it sounds, but still. Don't judge me, my sense of humor is pretty bad. Dumb comedy aside, there are a lot of literary references here. You can't be expected to look up all of them, or you'll never finish this. I mentioned this before, but there are a lot of philosophical themes in this story, although some people make the mistake of considering them the very fulcrum of Wonderful Everyday. I don't believe you're supposed to learn lessons from them. Philosophy is present to explain the world and the characters. The story itself is what the game excels at, especially the sheer scope and ambition that its writer, Ska G, had while telling it. It has its lows, trust me, There are a couple chapters that are borderline boring, but there's so much to say about its quality bar and how high it stays for most of the game. It would be unfair to focus on the bad too much. I believe art is one of the most subjective topics when it comes to visual novels. All I'm going to say is that it looks good. Very good. A few scenes are maybe a bit too sexualized, especially when it comes to a very young girl. Every character is 18 plus my ass, by the way. But honestly, if that's enough to bother you, I have no clue how you're going to get through many other scenes. I love the character designs. Just to make a couple examples, Yuki Minakami looks goddamn gorgeous, no matter the scene she's in, or the clothes she's wearing, or not wearing, I guess. Also, I grew to really like Tomuzane Yuki's design, simple but effective, and it's good is all I want you to get from this. Music? Well, it's wonderful, no pun intended. I'm a sucker for piano themes, so I adore some of the pieces in this. If you like vocal themes, you'll be glad to know there are many different ones for various endings, and they're all very, very good. Wait, stop. Various endings? As in, there are multiple routes? Yes, there are, but that's also not what I really meant. This story is divided in chapters, and in each one you play as a different character. Every chapter has one main ending and alternate ones, so you'll be seeing the credits roll a lot of times. I've never been a fan of changing characters or perspective in stories, as I prefer to grow attached to one protagonist and stick with it. But this whole game revolves around the different perspectives and it's very well executed, so it's fine. Just a quick tidbit too. The very first chapter you play after starting out the game is not representative of the actual story, as in, it's straight up a slice of life school comedy which may or may not have pretty well drawn explicit Yuri scenes in it. What can be so fucked up about this? It's kinda sweet, innocent Sky thought to himself. But hey, the first two chapters aren't called Down the Rabbit Hole for nothing. I'm basically done here. This isn't supposed to be a review or an advertisement for the visual novel, by the way. I just thought it was so good I had to talk about it, at least for a bit. It's so fucked up, at many points, and even while I consider myself pretty strong when it comes to watching fucked up stuff, I almost felt like throwing up in one particular scene. And it wasn't because of how graphic it was, just how fucked up the whole situation turned. And it all happened because I was so attached to the story and the characters that I just couldn't help myself. That's an effective story. Be prepared, you can't skip text here. I mean, you can just hold control, but you definitely shouldn't if you want to understand anything. See, the game never tells you what's up in a direct manner. There are many visual novels that straight up have exposition moments to get you up to speed in case you didn't notice certain elements of the plot. This one doesn't. It keeps telling its story, and you are the one who should figure out what's going on. I mean, sometimes it becomes so obvious that you really have no excuse not to know. Also, until you get the true ending, you will have no clue who a few characters are, and even once you've seen it all, you'll probably still need to go look for that WordPress article that tries to explain the multiple layers of the story. Required reading before you start? Nothing is absolutely needed, but if you want, there are these books you can read. I listed them in order of how much I suggest them. You know, to go in prepared. Yeah, the game's ambitious, shut up. Hey, the video's done, it's over. I like doing this kind of video, especially since, you know, sometimes I play games on my own. I think they're worthy of note and worth talking about, but they're not really gameplay material, so I can't make a series on them. It's very cool to make this kind of video. If you want more, leave a comment. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. I don't want to do the typical like, comment, and subscribe outro. Just know that I appreciate any kind of interaction. Show that you're alive if you're still here. Anyway, if you like visual novels, you must play this one. It's really fucking good. It's really, really good. Well, see you and have a nice day.